Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is September 4th, and we're moving through the year. We do have a lot of things we want to talk about today. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information we believe to be most relevant. Of course, what we're most interested in is the window for the potential reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. Things are kind of quiet right now, but things are also happening that are moving us inextricably to the reinstatement of the Iraqi dinar, and we'll get into those today. Fortunately, there is one individual that wants to see this done that's on our side, and that's Prime Minister Soudani of Iraq. He has promised us that that the citizens of Iraq would see a change in the exchange rate this year, and we're getting close to the end of this year because we're near the fourth quarter, so I expect something to happen soon. I get a lot of contacts from individuals that are frustrated that this thing seems to just trot along continuously. We don't see an end, but you have to remember that Iraq was a basket case with the removal of Saddam Hussein, and it's taken all of this time to get Iraq into a position where they could fully re-enter the global community with a viable global currency. The example I can give you is what happened in Kuwait. Of course, the Kuwaiti situation was different, and it was a much shorter time frame. But just 2 weeks before the Kuwaiti dinar reinstituted, the CBI of Kuwait said not to expect the reinstitution until the following year. So I think what's going on is that when we get close to these radical changes, substantial changes in rates, they're concerned about speculators, and so they don't really give us a heads up. And I've often said that the Iraqi dinar will just wake up one morning and it'll be done. So we'll do what we're doing now. We're following on a regular basis. We're seeing movement in the right direction, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, et cetera, and then all of a sudden one day it's all done. And I'm hoping, based on my experience with Kuwait, hoping that that's exactly what's going to happen. But Soudani has been making a lot of progress in a lot of areas. The Standard & Poor has recently praised Iraq for achieving what it termed as financial and economic stability. Well, that's huge because we've been told all along that we would not see a change in the exchange rate until there is financial and economic stability. And S&P has said that Iraq has accomplished that. We also have the U.S. Treasury, which said that they're pleased with the progress that Iraq has made with control of the USD in country and the procedures that they have established for currency transactions. Now, there is one fly in the ointment. It's the same one we've always been dealing with. It's the pro-Iranian officials in the pro-Iranian bloc in the parliament. They're doing everything they can to postpone the completion of the budget and the issues in dispute, and that in turn is having a little bit of an effect on the transition to the electrical payment systems within the banks. So I'll call it a state of limbo. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be short-lived. I don't think that the pro-Iranian bloc, they're hanging by their fingernails now. We're just about done with those morons. So hopefully this will all be resolved quickly as well. We're also near 80% completion of the Oliver Wyman, quote-unquote, a development road project. Now, what is that? That is a road and rail link between Iraq's Grand Fa port and the Turkish border. Now, the Grand Fa port is the largest port in the Middle East and one of the largest ports in the world. And Turkey is the entrance to Europe. European trade, European travel, European tourism, European multiple global contracts, etc. So this, once again, indicates we're very close. It makes absolutely no sense for the nation-state of Iraq and other nations that are assisting them to be doing all of this if Iraq is going to remain in a program rate and unable to trade globally to the extent that they'd like to. So this is all very, very good news. This is where we are. All we can do at this point is wait. Now, there were a couple of other things that aren't of quite as much importance, but they're still relevant. One is the fact that, according to Sudani, we're entering the last phase of the citizen education program, bringing the citizens up to speed. And, of course, the completion of this program, the final phase, will include the release of the lower denominations. And we're also seeing the gap between the official rate and the street or market rate closing as well. Those are the two things that needed to be resolved in the end for the release of the lower denom. So we are literally right there. There are individuals, of course, there are, or a country like Iran, for example, for their own selfish reasons, even people in this country for their own selfish reasons that do not want to see the reinstitution and global evaluation of the Iraqi dinar. I don't want to get into all of their rationale, some of which is nefarious, some of which is political. But at this point, the momentum is there. They're standing in the railroad tracks, and the train's coming down the tracks, and they're going to have to step aside or suffer the consequences. So this is where we find ourselves right now. But we have another issue going on right now. And that's what's going on in this country. We're 60 days away from an election. And personally, myself, even though on a personal basis I'd love to see this revaluation tomorrow, I'd much rather, frankly, see it after the election on the assumption that the Biden-Harris ticket will be gone. But that would take until January. The election's in November, but Biden-Harris still would be in office until January. I don't think they could do anything too radical because they're the outgoing administration, and I don't think that they're going to be able to do anything substantial. But my concern would be the way they would handle the revaluation of the dinar. Remember, the United States Treasury holds trillions of dinar. Is that money going to be used to pay down the debt, to seal the border, to rebuild our military? Or is that money going to be used for all of these welfare programs, progressive programs, open border programs, and the like? So that's kind of an important issue. Although, again, I don't know how much that the Biden-Harris administration can do between now and January 20th when they have the inauguration of the next president, unless the next president is Kamala Harris. That's just my personal opinion. But I just cannot understand or believe that the American people would be foolish enough, given the last 4 years, to even consider electing somebody that's so economically illiterate and so left-leaning. But we'll have to see how that plays out. I mean, the only silver thread in that dark cloud, and it's a selfish one, is that regardless of who wins, if the Iraqi dinar reinstitutes and revalues globally, and you hold a substantial amount of Iraqi dinar, and you are smart with that money, there's pretty much nothing any administration, whether it's left-leaning or right-leaning, can do to take that wealth from you. Now, of course, the Biden-Harris administration would raise taxes. They do a whole lot of things. But, again, there are ways you can circumvent all of that, and we're going to touch on that a little bit later in the call. But I want to, in a little bit more detail, explain why the next election is going to have an effect on us. And it's only the people that have the wealth and know how to protect it that are going to be able to circumvent what they have in mind. Because if you look at what these people are doing, they're not post-constitutional in their governance. They're anti-constitutional in their governance. They violate the First Amendment with their censorship. Kamala Harris promises to violate the Second Amendment by attempting a mandatory federal gun buyback, so we have to relinquish our weapons. It's just profoundly unconstitutional. The establishment of a central bank digital currency to monitor our purchases is a grotesque violation of the Fourth Amendment. The excessive bails and fines that they are, of course, doing to Donald Trump are a violation of the Eighth Amendment. And they oppose federalism. Federalism is basically states' rights, the decentralization of governance. Of course, they want to try to federalize everything. The best example would be the ruling by the Supreme Court on Roe v. Wade. Their immediate response is, we're going to have immediately a pro-abortion federal law. Well, that's not how it works. Under federalism, the powers not specifically granted under the Constitution fall to the states and the people. Therefore, the issue of abortion will be resolved on a state-by-state basis. And basically what the Harris potential administration is saying is, well, we don't really care about that. We're going to make sure that we can circumvent the 10th Amendment and create federal laws in violation of the 10th Amendment. Now, they're going to try. As a matter of fact, the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, which shall not be infringed, the left has attacked the Second Amendment more than it's attacked every other issue in the Bill of Rights collectively. And you got to wonder what they have in store for us, that they are absolutely committed to taking away our right of self-defense. But I don't think they're going to be successful in any of this. That's why they want to try to stack the Supreme Court. That's why they want to eliminate the Senate filibuster. That's why they want to allow the illegals in so that they can change the census and create more seats in the House for themselves. They don't want to win straight up. They want to win by all of these tactics. Hopefully they won't be successful. Now, they do have an obstacle. It's Donald Trump. They've done everything they can to remove the obstacle. They've impeached him twice. They've sued him with an attempt to end his business and his wealth. They're going to try to incarcerate him by sentencing him this month. They've even tried to kill him. They've done everything, and the man's still standing. And he has at least a 50-50 chance of being reelected. But why do they really hate him? Is it because he's an outsider? Well, yes, he's not a member of the club. Is it because he beat Hillary Clinton in 2020? Yes, she was Plan B. Obama was Plan A. The two of them combined were going to basically fundamentally transform the nation, is the way they worded it, which means they want to transition from a constitutional representative republic to an open border social democracy. Do they want to get rid of him because of his mean tweets? Yeah, they use that. It's kind of a lame excuse, although I kind of wish Trump would back off on those tweets. It's unnecessary. The people that understand what he's doing don't need that, and the people that don't like him or don't want to see what he's doing just use that as an excuse to beat up on him. So he's backed off on that a little bit. the real reason they hate him is because he's pro-Constitution and they're anti-Constitution. And I'll give you he kind of gave us a hint when he got into the White House in the first term. He came in, and the bust that he put in the Oval Office was a bust of Andrew Jackson. And if you know your American history, that kind of tells you if Andrew Jackson was his mentor, what his intentions were. Well, who was Andrew Jackson? Why is he important? Well, Andrew Jackson was the victor of the Battle of New Orleans in 1812 because the British attacked the United States in 1812. Now, individuals that don't really know their history that well assume that the War of 1812 was to recapture the colonies for Britain. And, of course, that would be something that they would want. But that wasn't the real reason for the War of 1812. The reason for the War of 1812 was because after the Revolutionary War, and there was an agreement post-war, one of the things that the colonies agreed to was to allow the Bank of London to produce our currency. Well, that 20-year contract ended in 1811. So when the United States said, we're not going to renew our 20-year contract with the Central Bank of London, but pursuant to Article 1, Section 10 of our Constitution, we're going to create our own currency. Well, of course, that stole a lot of wealth from England that was, of course, lending us their money at interest. So that created the War of 1812. Well, we got into so much debt from that war, we actually reinstituted the London Bank central bank system. I think it was 1816. 20 years. Well, Andrew Jackson was president in 1836, and what did he do? He failed to renew the Central Bank of London. So the reason Andrew Jackson is Trump's mentor is because Donald Trump's intention, and he has said that if he ever gets back in the White House, we will see an economy that no American has ever seen. What did he mean by that? What he meant by that is he's going to end the Federal Reserve. We're going to go back to sound money, backed by gold and other natural resources created by the people pursuant to Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. That is the reason Donald Trump is hated, because the Federal Reserve is the money laundering operation for the left in this country, and the left in this country is running for president. Kamala Harris is a gold-plated, diamond-studded Marxist, and that's why they're going with the basement strategy 2.0. That's why she's not doing interviews. She's only going to do a debate because she has to, and if there's some way she can weasel out of it. As a matter of fact, they may be hoping that Donald Trump's actually incarcerated, which makes it impossible from their perspective for him to even do debates. Although she may be forced to do one debate. If she does a debate, Donald Trump wins. So they've done everything they can to try to avoid that, but I don't think they're going to be able to do that. But let me go back to what I said before about the Constitution and particularly the Fourth Amendment. And this doesn't just apply to individuals that have currencies like the dinar. This is for all Americans. The best way to protect and preserve the Bill of Rights is to utilize it. And every citizen can utilize it by exercising the right to put their estate, their wealth, their holdings in trust for themselves and for their posterity, for their children and their grandchildren. So I want to touch on the benefits of establishing a trust from the perspective of those of us that have currencies, particularly the dinar, and those of us that are just American citizens that want to be left the hell alone by an intrusive federal government bent on running our lives. So you contact Trusts Unlimited, whether you have currencies or not, and you say, I want to establish your family asset protection trust package. What will it do for me and my family? Well, first, it will preserve your privacy and your anonymity, because the assets and the operations going on within that trust are sealed, and the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth, your actual holdings, or your business operations. Second, this trust will allow you to avoid IRS scrutiny, because the operations will be occurring within the trust, not you personally. Third, if you're a denarian, this trust package includes a gifting subtrust, which means you can not only gift currencies to family and friends, pre-RV currencies, in order to avoid the federal gift tax, you will also, through this gift subtrust, have complete control of the post-RV proceeds. Now, there are situations where you simply want to allow the people to have the money and do with it what they want, but we've had a number of people call and say, I'd love to provide something for certain members of my family, but they just, for whatever reason, are going to be unable to manage that money. Well, by gifting to them through the gift subtrust, you will be able to manage that money for their benefit. This trust will also allow you to avoid the cost and delay of probate, which can take decades in situations where states are being contested. And this trust will allow you to avoid the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax is the tax that's assessed in order for that estate to be transferred to heirs. But if you give the currencies and your estate through the trust, you will be able to circumvent the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax can be as much as 65% of your entire estate. This trust also has certain asset protection benefits, one pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you actually own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title. So let's say you have 10 million dinar. You transfer the currencies to your trust pre-RV. Let's say they just revalue subsequently for $1. So now you have 10 million in your trust. Can you be sued for 10 million? No. You can only be sued for 10,000. Why? Because that's all the currency or the property was worth at the time you transferred it out of title to the trust. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This protects you from future bad acts through a legal strategy called segregation of assets. So you have your 10 million dinar. You transfer the currencies to the trust. They subsequently revalue for $10 million. You decide that you're going to purchase a new home, a couple of cars, a boat, an RV, whatever. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by the master trust, the initial pre-RV trust that you assigned the currencies to. Now, how does that protect you from future bad acts? Well, if you have a rental property and someone slips, the only thing they can go after is what's in that trust. Your other assets are in the other subtrust, which under the law are separate legal entities or persons having nothing whatsoever to do with the litigation in question. The same would hold true with your boat or your car. So you purchase the currencies, you assign them to the trust to limit any potential civil loss. Then you protect yourself after you've acquired this wealth by segregating the assets in subtrusts. Then your children and grandchildren will inherit the assets in trust, avoiding probate and the federal estate tax, thereby preserving 100 cents on a dollar of your wealth. You're protected from excessive taxation, you're protected from litigation, and you're protected from the federal estate tax. This can only be accomplished through a trust, a package of trust like ours. There's no other way it can be done, period, full stop. Now, our trust package is initially, well, actually, let me get into one. No, I'm going to hold off on that till next week. I got some information this morning. I haven't been able to confirm it, so I'm going to hold off on that till next week. Although, if this information turns out to be correct, then we'll be sending out an email prior to our next call next Wednesday. But our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold assigned currencies pre-RV and financial assets like bank and investment accounts post-RV, one gift sub-trust, which is an optional trust, which can be converted to a standard sub-trust, and 8 additional standard sub-trusts to hold homes, cars, boats, etc. This was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients. The package had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But by simplifying this package initially, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. There are several ways you can pay for that. Pay us up front. We'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. That's not possible. We even have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust package to you. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the Iraqi dinar revalues globally, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. So with this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their trust enforced and their affairs in order pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. Now, we still recommend that you pay us up front simply because it saves you $500 by doing so if you're able to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your card would be substantially less than the $100 a month you pay under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your trust enforced and your affairs in order pre-RV for all of the reasons that I've stated here. Now, if the things we've discussed are of interest, I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation informational package. It has a lot of information about us, about the trust, about the currencies, and how all of this works pre- and post-RV. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can review the information, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. There is no consultation fee. You can request a package by email or phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Again, contact us by email or phone. We'll get our initial package out to you as quickly as possible. I suggest you move quickly because we're in a position now where the Iraqi dinar could reinstitute at any time. I'm going to go to the Q&A here, so let me do that. One more time, I just want to give you our contact information. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com, and our phone service is 307-274-4122. We do have one caller in the queue here. That's area code 561. That's 561. Go ahead. 561, are you there?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay, great. Yes, I am a trust holder of yours, and we were having a discussion the other day. And we were just trying to make sure that our trust is, valid, meaning is there anything we could do that we didn't do correctly? For instance, when we got our trust initially, it actually asked for perhaps two trustees kind of a thing. And, of course, you mentioned we should only need one, and we left the other one blank. I guess if you could just tell us what are the minimum requirements to make sure our trust is valid and active?
What excuse what makes it valid? Did you say?
Or active? Is there anything we could do other than obviously we want to make sure we have a trustee and we don't do the. What are the minimum requirements, I guess, to make sure the trust is activated properly?
The minimum requirements to make sure the trust we sent you is to simply execute the documents. If you execute the documents we sent you, the trust is legally enforced and your currencies, all of your currencies have been assigned to the trust. There's literally nothing else for you to do until you're going to go to the bank. Now, the last supplemental document that came with the trust was called the Exchange Protocol. And that document explained the process of doing the exchange if you have a trust, and gave you all the do's and don'ts in terms of what you say and what you don't say, what you take to the bank, what you don't take to the bank, not because there's something that you need to hide, but because, frankly, the banks don't know what the hell they're doing. So if you give them too much information, they get confused. The only thing they need to have are the things that are legally required in order for them to establish a trust bank account, because the USD that you will negotiate, the exchange rate on your currencies, that USD will go into that trust bank account. And that's all you need to do. So if the documents are all executed, and there are some documents in the trust that are post-RV documents, but we recommend everything get executed so that we know that we're good to go. It doesn't matter if you execute a post-RV document pre-RV. And also the bank won't be able to say, well, why isn't this particular document signed? So execute everything. And again, when you've done that, the trust is legally enforced, is valid in all 50 states, and all of your currencies have been assigned to that trust.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Certainly. Okay. Bye-bye now. Okay, our next caller is area code 810. That's 810. I'm getting some serious feedback.
Okay. Hi, Jim. Can you hear me?
Barely, yes.
Okay, because I'm on my car phone. I'm driving, but I have a quick question. Okay, sure. In regards to once we revalue, we put our money in the trust, and since we negotiate with the bank interest rate, that money that we leave does the bank have control over that to more or less oversee that and do what they want to do with it until the time limit is up?
No, they have no more control of that than they would any money in the bank account. Now, personally, myself, I'm going to move that money out of the bank as quickly as possible, and I've suggested to people, start putting together your investment plan because you don't want to leave that money in the bank. Of course, they'd love for you to leave it in the bank, but that doesn't benefit you. That just benefits them. So negotiate the exchange. The USD goes into your trust bank account, and then start making, I know for myself, I'm planning to purchase a number of 2- and 3-bedroom homes that I'm going to be renting out. There's a lot of tax reasons and other reasons I'm going that route. But if the money is in land, and in real estate, I have much more control of it than if it's in the bank or in the stock market.
Okay, so are you saying, say I should leave any, or should I, if I left a little bit or whatever, just to negotiate maybe a higher interest rate or something like that? Not a lot, but do they have control over that? That's what I'm trying to find out. Do they have control over that for the time that I say I'm going to leave it there?
The only time they have control of it is if you put it in one of their CDs, because the only way you can get that money out is to pay the pre-release penalty. So they don't have control of your money. They have the float that they can utilize. But you make decisions about your liquidity and how you invest the money. But it's not like you go to the bank and say, well, I want $50,000, and they say, well, we're not going to give it to you. It's your money. So they're not going to have that kind of control. But again, they're paying you little or nothing on it, and it's all income taxable. Take that money and invest it. One of the reasons I'm going to go into real estate is because I have all of the tax write-off, depreciation, capital expenditures, and all of that. Then I have an income stream coming in from the rentals and things like that. Now, it's a lot more work than leaving it in the bank, but it's also a lot more return than leaving it in the bank.
So So basically, you're saying that you would get more of a return than if you negotiate a high interest rate. So is that what you're saying?
The bank's not going to give you a high interest rate. They're not going to give you a high interest rate. That's the last place. For me, a bank is for liquidity and convenience, period. That's me personally. I don't want. They are perennially the worst money managers. If you look at all the money they're the worst. Okay, it's about them. It's not about you, period. I've been in the business a long time, and all my major problems have been with banks. So they're going to have as little as possible. Like I said, I have liquidity needs. That's it. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jim.
Certainly. Take care. Bye-bye now. Okay, our next caller is area code, 763. That's 763. Go ahead.
Hi, I am wondering about the exchange fee. Do you have any idea what we should expect at the bank? Can we negotiate that, or is it just going to be laid out?
Generally speaking, they're regressive, meaning that the more money that you're exchanging, the less the fee should be. One of the things I'm going to do, and I've said this, I'm going to be contacting a number of banks the minute this thing reinstitutes in country to tell them, we're Trusts Unlimited. We have X number of clients. The average client has X amount of dinar. This is a gross number of the amount of money. I want to know the best arrangements you can provide for our clients if they come into your bank with our trust in terms of the exchange fee and the rate. Are you going to give me a street rate? Are you going to give me a slight premium over that? What are you going to do? And just see what they do. Now, I'm quite sure that most of our clients are going to run to the bank with their hair on fire before I can get that information. But I'm still going to get that information because I'm getting it for myself as well as everyone else. So I'm going to want that information. But when you go to the bank to negotiate, the one thing to remember is you're the one with the currency. So if you're not completely comfortable with them, I wouldn't do the exchange there. I would go to several banks to see what they had to offer, and I would tell them that I'm talking to other banks to try to solicit from them the best deal possible. And you might end up exchanging at a couple of banks. They might say, well, we'll do it for this amount, but not that amount. I don't know why they would do that, but the banks do a lot of things I don't quite understand. But basically, whatever they're doing is for their benefit, not yours. I'm not a fan of banks, as you can tell. I can tell you stories, but I don't want to digress. So, that's where we are, and a lot of people have never they've never negotiated anything of substantial amount, and then all of a sudden, even if they only have 5 million dinar, and it comes back at 322, they're sitting there with $18 million potentially, and they're totally freaked out because they've never even contemplated having that kind of money. So you're going to have to be careful. I'm going to try to get the information as quickly as possible, but I've got nothing to leverage with the banks in terms of commitment from them because the RV hasn't occurred. But once it does, and I'll have to tell them, look, don't take me at my word, check me out. Check out Trusts Unlimited for yourself. Once you find out we're real, then, come back with a serious offer, and it's something we can present to our clients. But like I said, I expect most people are going to run to the bank, and many are quite capable of, many of our clients are experienced business people, and they may have never negotiated something of this amount, but they're comfortable negotiating. So we're just going to have to play that by ear. We're all on the fly with that.
So we'll just expect to hear from you after you've spoken to the banks, and then we let you know if we're interested in being one of the people that might be a customer to that bank?
Basically, the arrangement we're going to try to make is if an individual walks into your bank with our trust, these based on certain amounts that they have, this is what we can expect in terms of the exchange rate and the transaction fee. So instead of charging you 3/4 of a point, they may only charge you 1/2 point. Instead of giving you 322, they might give you 346. I'm just making up numbers right now, but I'm going to try to solicit the best deal I can. But that could take a week or longer, because the person I'm talking to has got to move it up the chain, and I'm just going to say to them, well, the longer this takes, the fewer clients that are going to walk into your bank. And that's the best I can do.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And it might be to our benefit if it's true that the exchange amount will go up over time for a while. So
that's true. However, if this thing happens hypothetically in September, taxes would be due on October 15th. And the taxes are due. The taxes are due on the entire amount that you have, what the rate is at the end of that quarter, whether you exchange it or not. So you could have a liquidity issue. And if you don't pay the tax, what's the penalty? 100% plus interest. So if it happens in September, it's going to be difficult. If it happens in October, we don't have to worry till January, so we can take our time, negotiate the best rate, hold the currency if it continues to appreciate, because we don't have to pay Uncle Sam till January 15th of next year.
Okay. Well, much
right.
fodder for prayer. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Certainly. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that's our last caller for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. If this is your first time calling and the things we've discussed are of interest, again, I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no obligation package. Again, you're under no obligation by doing so, but it has some very valuable information in there. And a lot of individuals have contacted us for our package just to kick the tires and said, thank God you sent that to us because I want to set this trust up yesterday when they read through everything. You can contact us again by email or phone. The email is trusts with an S, Unlimited LLC at gmail.com, or the phone service is 307-274-4122. Contact us. We'll be happy to get our package out as quickly as possible. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and have a great week. Bye-bye now.